Welcome to Trek Table, your Sunday weekly podcast holding Trek space for
Black, Indigenous, Brown, women of color,
queer or otherwise,
and our allies. Hey, what's up? I'm your host, DeLa, and today I'm holding Trek space for all that tender man of color goodness between Space Poppy Hugh and Cleveland Booker. Oh, and of course, Tilly, Adira, Saru, and Burnham in this episode.
And I am your co-host, Claudia, and today I'm holding Trek space for discovering that the journey can be more important than the destination.
Hi, I'm your co-host Maia, and I'm holding Trek space for cranky, smart youngins who don't want to do icebreakers until they crash into ice.
Oh, it was great. Hi, I'm your co-host, Maia Mama, and I'm holding Trek space for people accepting change as a gift.
And hi, I am your co-host Marie-Reine, and I'm holding Trek space for subtle, not subtle ways to ask for help because politics.
Yes, and we want to welcome everybody to the Trek Table, and we start by acknowledging that our teams for the Trek Table are on the unceded land of the Tongva, the Chumash, the Quiche, the Ohlone, Puyallup, Pawtucket, and Massachusetts people. We're grateful to the indigenous stewards of these lands, the ancestors who have come before, and those who are here now, and those who have yet to come. We invite our listeners and our viewers to be an acknowledgement of the lands that you are on. Feel free to follow the links in the chat if you don't know where you are. Let's go ahead, everybody. Plant your feet flat on the floor. Let's go ahead. Take a breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. Yes, and I want to say thank you to everybody for joining us today as we hold Trek Space for Women of Color here in front of our live digital audience on the Outside In Theaters YouTube channel, as well as all of you listening on our podcast.
Our opening track is titled Chicana Skies by the band Quetzal off the album Quetzal. You'll be hearing several tracks by Quetzal throughout this episode of Trek Table. Follow them at Quetzal Music on Instagram and see our show notes or the chat for a link to their merchandise and more.
Yes, and we want to welcome everybody to episode 36 of the Trek Table. Thank you so much for showing up for this conversation with women of color. We're assembled today to discuss Star Trek Discovery Season 4, Episode 4, All Is Possible, which started streaming on Paramount Plus on December 9th. So we're super excited about this. Hope folks are caught up. I just want to say, we keep forgetting to say, this is a spoiler-filled show. If you have not seen the episode and you don't want spoilers, don't watch us. Go watch the episode, then come back. That's what we're here for. All right. So we are excited about this episode. We have a great episode today. We are ready to talk about it. I just want to honor people's spoiler journeys. We're talking about All Is Possible, Season 4, Episode 4, and we're going to look at this episode and the themes of self, service, and leadership. We're going to chunk through these journeys of self that Book and Tilly are on in this episode, some really big things. We're going to get a chance to check in and look at how Burnham and Saru and Culber's journey of self are having this intersection right now in terms of service and leadership. And then, of course, we're going to be able to talk a little bit about leadership, building effective teams in a time of pandemic, or let's talk about cadet training missions for the newly reopened Starfleet Academy.
If you are as excited as we are that Trek Table is holding space for disco and other Trek fans, we invite you to share that joy with us and become a supporter. Any amount at patreon.com/TrekTable.
And we are also just so glad that you are joining this BIWalk Trek conversation. Hello and welcome. So that we can build with each other, we'd love to know, how do you enter this conversation as a Star Trek fan? Are you a newbie, Star Trek curious? Are you an OG Trekker? Are you from a Star Trekking family? Are you Star Trek fam? Trek Zaddy, Trek baby? Let us know in the chat.
All right, welcome back, everybody. We are here for Trek Table episode number 36, Star Trek Discovery Season 4, Episode 4. The episode is called All Is Possible. We're going to unpack this episode in a couple of different ways today. We've got Trek Table questions with Claudia. We're here to try a new version of our popcorn recap. We're going to premiere a new segment called Star Trek Shenanigans. We've got Discovery Design. We're going to braid it all together in Thematix. We've got Signal Boost, Final Thoughts, and Gratitude. You know, we're so excited to be in this practice with you all to talk about and ask about Star Trek Discovery, but we want to know who's here at the table. So we're going to invite folks to go around, check in. Friends in the chat, feel free also to check in the chat. Tell us your name, your pronouns, your visual description, any access check-in. And finally, that question that Claudia asked us before the break, how do you enter as a Star Trek fan?
Hi, I'm Claudia. My pronouns are they, theirs. You can also use she, hers. Visual description: African American woman sitting in front of the projection of the original Enterprise deck, a bridge, and I've got a brown afro, wearing a red Star Trek shirt, and my access check-in is that I have allergies, so you might see me with some tissues here on camera for my allergies, and also I have a muscle disorder, so that means sometimes I might pull a face or my body might do something dramatic, and that's me. That's my body doing something dramatic. That's not me making a comment on Star Trek. And I identify as generational Star Trek and poly sci-fi. Find me a science fiction thing I'm not into. Would you like to talk about Foundation after the show? After the show.
Thank you so much, Claudia. Maia, can I invite you to go next?
Hello, everyone. I'm Maia, and I go by she, her, hers pronouns. I'm a Latina Guatemalan mestiza. I have purple lipstick on today and magenta purplish hair, and also some glasses that sometimes, I don't know, maybe they're giving me, I might need new ones because I'm also having a little bit of a migraine today. So if I look grumpy, don't worry, it's because I am. No, but really, I identify as a Star Trek fan, sci-fi curious, and I'm also thinking about, I'm not a newbie necessarily, but I am Star Trek fresh. So that's my new one.
Okay, Star Trek Fresh. I feel
Very
you.
nice.
Thanks so much for checking in, Maia. Welcome. Maya Mama, can I invite you to check in next?
Yeah, hi, I am Maya Mama. I use she, her pronouns. I'm youngish looking middle-aged black woman, wearing a blue disco shirt, but it looks like my chair's a little low. And I have a red headband with the little Star Trek insignia on it right here, and I'm wearing a red lip and some just really, I guess, basic for me makeup. And I'm from a generational Star Trek family, and I identify as pan or omni sci-fi. And I've been experimenting with a show called The Expanse, and it's not bad.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll pick it up right there. I'll go next. What's up, everybody? I'm DeLa. I am my pronouns are she, he, they, or DeLa. Visual check-in is my hair is doing some really fun things today. The blue is rolling over, and I've got a little bit of a little faux hawk curl going on with my mixed Filipinx self. It's sitting in front of a giant blue wall with my disco t-shirt on. My access check-in today is that my knee's a little funky, so I'm at a different place. I could ice it while we talk. And of course, I've got some great water in my favorite disco cup. I would say that I am sci-fi poly, and my primary relationship is with Star Trek Discovery. So yes, super happy to be here. And last but not least, I want to say, so that was my check-in. I want to welcome back to the show our friend, a co-host who was on the original team that helped us launch this project known as the Trek Table. Welcome back, Marie-Reine. Season 3 of the Trek Table, Season 4 of Disco. How are you? Can I invite you to check in?
Yay! It's so good to be back and to see everyone. Hi everyone, Marie-Reine, she, her, hers pronouns. I'm a Filipinx American woman with tan skin, a round face. I've a new haircut. It's short, just above my ears. The picture I showed my hairdresser was Chetna from Great British Bake Off, but it doesn't look exactly like that because we have different hair texture. I've dark glasses, and I'm wearing my disco shirt with a cardigan over it, standing in my regular corner. That's a off-white wall. I have some multicolored string lights. Access needs. I just have like a sore neck, I think, just from tension in general from life. And so I might like roll my neck a little bit. Um, and then as a fan, I enter this space. I like how Maia said Star Trek fresh. I would say like Star Trek casual, kind of dipping in and out. And
Yes.
and then I would say I haven't described myself as this, but I would say I'm a poly sci-fi fan with just I love lots of different science fiction. So that's who I
Mhm.
am.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much. And we are about to get into the final business before we jump to our discussions. We do a thing here called the Trek Table Agreements, and we want to make sure that everybody is prepped for how we like to talk to each other here at the Trek Table. So we want to say welcome. Welcome to all who enter, whether you're a newbie or you're a Star Trek fresh, maybe you're a Star Trek casual, or maybe you're a deep canon head or you were raised in a generational Trek family. We want to say welcome. We want to build this space together.
Whether you use the Trek Table as your nerdy exploration or as part of your self care ritual, Trek Table is a weekly space to put down the world for a second and come into the Trek space.
This is a space for Black, Brown, Indigenous, women of color to be a fan, a geek, a nerd, and explore the vastness of the Star Trek universe.
Trek Table is also a place for allies to come, engage, and explore as well. This is an opportunity for allies to hold space and focus on insights, perspectives, and experiences that we may not all be familiar with.
And now that we are all here, we remind you that we seek to build an environment of mutual respect and listening. We understand that we'll disagree, and that's actually part of the fun, but there's enough hate going on out there in the world. So let's keep our phasers on stun.
Yes, yes. And with all those agreements in mind, we want to invite everybody gathered here at the table, all our friends in the chat, those of you listening on the podcast. Go ahead, let's breathe in those agreements. Take a breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. Thank you.
Woo! And that brings us to our Trek Table questions that are posed to our Trek Table assembled here and to those participating in the Outside In YouTube channel chat. First question. Captain, by a young age, is framed as the ultimate success in many Star Treks. So, what would success look like for you in Starfleet?
Mira que regresa el maldito. Viene con las manos llenitas de piedra que no quiere arrojar.
And we are back with our first Trek Table question number one. Captain by a young age is framed as the ultimate success. You know, Riker wanted to get in on that, and Tilly's been talking about this since season one, right? I'm just curious, what would success, that seems like a very narrow definition of success. What would success look like for you specifically if you were in Starfleet? And I'm going to start with you, Maia, looking beautiful in your Star Trek medical shirt. I'm getting impressed with your outfit changes every single episode. It is magic. What would success look
I
like for you, Maia?
Yes, I did forget to mention that I'm wearing all white with a little medical symbol on my t-shirt. I think success means like having like just as much vacation as work, or that work doesn't always feel like work, and that I get to visit different planets.
Interesting. Well, I'm loving the idea of work-life balance in the future. Can we make sure that there's time to visit Riza? Can we make sure that there's time for that? Well done. I'm loving that. I'm going to go to you, Maya Mama. I'm curious. If you were in Starfleet, what would success look like for you?
I mean, adventure sounds like fun, but to be honest, I think I would prefer to work at the Utopia Planitia shipping yards, like building ships, or at a research station, like something nice and quiet and peaceful until the whatever thing I'm working on destroys me and everyone that I've been working with. Um, Um, or I would also maybe if I was taken to spend time with a wise non-corporeal being to learn about the universe, that would be successful to me. That'd be cool.
Ooh,
Yeah.
okay. All right, Maya Mama,
That
I'm
sounds
loving this.
nice.
Those are two radically different visions. And I was like, I was with you with this prosaic, like, let's just be at Utopia Planitia. Let's just build ships. Let's just like keep it real. And then you went super galactic with that vision. I'm excited. You could go off and have adventures with Wesley Crusher. Isn't that what Wesley Crusher did? He went off with his like intergalactic mentor, and they went. I love it. Marie-Reine, Marie, welcome back. What would success look like for you if you were in Starfleet?
Okay, I think like yeah, I'm also thinking about it in two ways. One, like the lofty goal of using Starfleet for like positive social change. I think that's like something that I try to do just personally and something that I feel like translates well in a lots of different universes. And then personally, yeah, I feel like I would also be like a researcher or some kind of, I would want to be like a scientist who has a, and then just total vanity, like vanity legacy, like something named after me, like the Velez particle or the Velez
Yes.
conundrum or the, you know, just like or training exercise, right? So just having something named after me.
Love
Love
it.
it. I love it. I love it.
Wow.
Yeah.
I feel like we can try and make that a reality already. We can just get something. We can make up something Star Trekky and name it after you. I feel like that's a good goal for future seasons. DeLa. Well, actually, I'm gonna do a shout out before I toss to you, DeLa. I just want to say our audience is amazing. Who in our audience wants to be the head of Starfleet Security or Section 30? 30 is it 13 or 31? I mixed up the numbers. Is it
31.
Section 31?
31.
It's Section 31.
31.
I'm
Yeah.
dyslexic, y'all. I mess it up.
Mm.
That's amazing. That is amazing. Again, I feel like those are two. Those look the same, but they're radically different. Like those are really different jobs, and I am here for both of them. I love our audience. DeLa, what would Starfleet success look like for you?
I mean, I think in my early days of being a Next Generation fan, I certainly wanted to be the Wesley Crusher who was going to go to the academy and become a captain at an early age. But really, as I age in my own body, Guinan's got a really good plan going on. Like 10 forward, I like that Culber gets to be the ship's counselor and I heard them call it the forward lounge. So I'm about being in the forward lounges. I'm about yeah, who does the aesthetic of the music in the forward lounges? I wouldn't be a DJ, but I would be a sonic selector in forward lounge. That's
Oh my
my
gosh!
success in
Sonic
Starfleet.
selector.
No, DeLa, I feel like you and I could collaborate because I feel like if I lived in the future, right? I think as a young person, I would be confused and I'd be trying to do a Wesley
Mm.
Crusher path. And then I think I'd have like a moment of clarity like Tilly. And I'd be like, you know what I need to do? I need to make holodeck programs. And that's what I would do. Just awesome holodeck
Okay.
program. So that's where my
Well,
passion is.
Paris.
I would not only be, well, not only like, not just like Paris, I'd be more like Barkley, like Lieutenant Barkley, where I'm like designing programs and I'm designing programs that
Mm.
maybe they're becoming a little sentient. Like I'm making some magic happen with the science, but also it's art. Y'all, I love our audience. I love you. This was really fun to answer. This was a lot of fun. I hope our podcasters, the folks listening to the podcast, have a chance to answer this question too. That brings us to the end of Trek Table question number 1.
Trek Table is proud to be part of the digital theater platform at Outside In Theater. Like and subscribe to the Outside In YouTube channel for our weekly live digital recordings. Listening on the podcast, check out youtube.com/Outside In Theater.
That sound cue was the song Matanzas by Quetzal. And so that means that we know it is time for Popcorn Recap. Today, we're going to try something new for this segment. We are going to try to alter the game just a little. It's still pretty simple. We have 2.5 minutes so that all of us together can tell chunklets of the 5 different plot lines in this week's episode.
Today we are talking about Star Trek Discovery Season 4, Episode 4, All Is Possible, written by Alan McElroy and Eric J. Robbins, and directed by John Ottman.
And we think this is funny because Marie-Reine and I are Star Trek fresh. Claudia is bad with proper nouns. And Maya Mama comes from a generational Trek family. And of course, DeLa loves all the minutia. Can we get it done?
Okay, so Tilly still feels lost, and then Dr. David Cronenberg is asked for help with an officer to lead a training exercise, and then Tilly says yes. Cadets are the best that Starfleet has to offer, but then the guidance, but they need guidance and team building. Mentoring is hard. Tilly can't be her bubbly self because the shuttle has crashed and the training is turned into a crisis. Then they crash into a moon where it's hostile and there are creatures trying to attack, and then Tilly and the cadets have to work together to survive, including moving past space stereotypes and interspecies trauma. So then, led by Tilly, the cadets mostly survive and they trauma bond, and then Tilly gets offered a job with the Academy and says yes.
Yes. And so while they're on this trip, Adira also, right before Tilly goes, Space Poppy Culber's like, could you bring Adira with you? Adira's like, I'm not a cadet. But then Gray is like, yeah, but you might need to learn how to make new friends. So Adira's on this trauma bonding trip too, has to learn how to play well with others. And at the end of this episode says, I made new friends all on my own.
All right, so on a completely different planet, the planet Navarre, which is like the Vulcans and the Romulans planet, they're about to join the Federation, right? But like, actually, maybe not. And like, there's an entire ceremony around it. And Saru and Burnham are invited. And Burnham's like, "Why do you want me?" And they're like, "Just look pretty and be quiet." But actually, low key, they wanted her to be there so she could make suggestions nobody else could. And in the very end, turns out she could make the best suggestions. And now apparently, she's going to be in charge of the committee running stuff to give advice.
So, what we got here are two presidents playing a little parent trap with Saru and Burnham. But Saru learns this new touchy meditation technique with Tarina, and looks like they're going to be spending a lot of time together.
And then Book, he's going through it, and Culber offers the therapy, and he's in the room, all relaxed, trying to be, hey, I'm a cool therapist. Don't worry, you can talk to me. And Book is a little bit resistant, but can really anyone really understand what it's like to lose your home planet? But maybe Culber can. So he shares some of his personal anecdotes and even brings his cultural history, the Muerto Parao. And then Book does some sand sculpture and Quajon rituals. And it's like, I'm mad and I have feelings. And then, he's starting to feel a little bit better. So he asks Culber, you want to talk about it? I mean, this is helping me. And then Culber's like, yeah, maybe later.
Yes.
What do you think about that?
Get it, Trek Table. All right. Thank you, thank you. I appreciate it. I see Satterfield's comment that we're glossing over the death of Agent of Cadet Cullum. Don't worry, we're aware and present with Cadet Cullum's passing. But yes, congrats, Trek Table. Super happy that we got that done. For our friends watching and listening, if you want a kind of an act by act breakdown and you're interested in some of the deep dives, we always want to amplify friends at Women at Warp. Kennedy Allen did this week's episode recap, so you can check it out. Links in the chat and on your screen. Thanks so much.
And if you are having a good time, let's keep this dialogue going. Like and follow us on Instagram at Trek Table and on Twitter at Trek_Table. Hashtag BIWOC Trek.
All right, so that new little mellow, little wacky sound cue is the song Fancy Time Teller by the band Quetzal off their album Die Cowboy Die. And this is our attempt at a new segment today, this week. We're looking to talk a little bit about sometimes that moment when you see the Easter egg. Sometimes you see that wacky little thing that Star Trek fans might know, or maybe it's just stuff that we at the Trek Table, we really want to be like, see you, love it, calling it out. And this is Star Trek Shenanigans. Maya, can I ask you to go first?
With our first shenanigans, still no seatbelts in space. So here we go on the shuttlecraft and programmable matter collide again, and still no seatbelts in Star Trek space. Even when they program chairs, they don't program seatbelts. Cadet Callum played the ultimate price, and we honor you.
Or did.
Shenanigan number 2. Equity, diversity, and inclusion team builder in full effect. Anyone else feel deja vu? Tilly and her cadet training are nods to all of the EDI or EDIA or IDEA or DEI team builder groups that you've ever been in. How can this group who doesn't work well together bond and then build?
Beautiful. Shenanigan number 3, parasitic ice. I see you call back to season 3, episode 2, and Tilly and Discovery runs in to parasitic ice on Corden. Plus, let's not pass up the opportunity to highlight Tilly thinking quickly with that tricord that manifests binding and rope. Come on, team, with that heave ho that will free Adira from this alive ice. Is that a thing in the future? Ice is going to have free will and try to eat us? Mm-mm.
Wow.
Aw.
For real. Shenanigans number 4, monster of the week, form of giant starfish. Yes, we are loving that this episode, we're not only getting that long-term season episodic arc of the stories, but we're also getting a monster of the week. And this week, we're super excited to see these giant amalgamations of light eaters in the form of giant starfish. See that duet? We're wondering, is this a spoiler for Suicide Squad?
Shenanigan number 5, Vulcan flirt meditation. Captain Saru, keep your eyes closed the whole time. That's exactly what President Trina says. And we say, get it, Saru. Saru can get it. Burnham sees, Rillick sees. Telpia T was being passed. Show enough, Tarina gonna see some Saru.
Yes, yes, we are all about species sex positivity, species love. Get it, get it. And those were just some of the things we saw in this episode, but those were our Star Trek shenanigans for season 4, episode 4. All is possible.
We want to say thank you to all of our Trek Table newsletter subscribers and family for helping us hit a new benchmark. Trek Table on our own YouTube channel. Like and subscribe as we prepare to launch fun new content and more in January. Hit the links in your chat or in the episode notes.
Welcome, welcome to Discovery Design. Let's dish on the design elements that gave us all the drama this episode. I've got some topics here, so I'm going to read them off and then I will invite you all to go off. So, the first thing I want to talk about is Dr. Culber's office, just the comfiness of it, the openness. I just think that it's just so beautiful. The window that's letting in, I guess, natural light of space, and there's some really pretty art pieces that are scattered around there. Comfy pillows, nice couch. Claudia, can I invite you to share some of your observations with me?
Yes. Well, okay. Question about this. Slow motion. Have you all noticed how much slow motion there is in Star Trek Discovery? I feel like there's more slow motion in Star Trek Discovery than any other Star Trek there has ever been. And at the top of this episode, there was this amazing moment where Burnham is slow motion walking past a black officer, and the officer does the black nod, and then they just keep on walking. And I just wanted to say, did anyone notice the black nod? There are black nods in the future. I was just excited. Did anyone else notice? I'm seeing the head nods. All right. Dope.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Also, I have another
notice.
question. I'm sorry. Yeah. Please.
All I want to say is I see how also if folks don't know about the black nod, it just looks like someone's nodding to the captain. So there's also that moment that it just made me be like, oh, she runs a ship that's like, what's up?
Maybe
Stop
maybe
moving.
they're all. Maybe I was reading into it. Maybe everybody nods. For future episodes, really watch carefully while she's slow motion walking and see if other people nod. I might have been reading some cultural significance into that wasn't there. Speaking of cultural significance, I got another question. So this episode was set on the planet Navarre, and it looked so nice. Like it looks like a place I want to vacation, but I've got this memory, this Star Trek memory, that Vulcan is like really harsh and hot and hard for other species to live on. I don't know why I got this in my head. Am I tripping? Does anyone else got? Is this a thing?
Well, I mean, I was gonna say I feel like the culture is hard for for non-Navarians or non-Vulcans because of how just kind of like strong their culture like um ways are with like logic or the meditation like they're like the meditation there's no like okay we're gonna meditate now. It's just kind of like all of a sudden everyone with the draws into meditating um and so yeah I was like oh just like there's like no like kind of like introduction to what they're doing for any guests.
Well, I was going to say that Vulcan is warmer than Earth.
Mm.
Typically, it's a desert planet. So you're going to have, I think, desert type of issues, and humans are generally weaker. No offense, humans,
Whoa.
than other alien species. Claudia, you got anything else?
I really liked the colors on the cadet's ship. And I wasn't
Hmm.
sure if it looked like a ship from Prodigy, the cartoon, but I like the
Mm.
color scheme on it.
Mm.
Well, let's talk about this ice planet that they are on, or moon. I guess it's a moon. It's an ice moon. We have mountains and trees. We have this red lightning coming down, and I love the way that the colors of the blue and the red sort of play off of each other. The blueness that keeps kind of everybody kind of in a sad, depressed state, and then contrasting that, Navarre is this bright, it has all these bright, warm colors. So, I mean, and honestly, like, come on. It gets more beautiful each time Navarre does. The treaty room, the um the just all of the spaces that everyone's hanging out in. And um and even the president's hookup, I mean, her meditation room. Yes,
Yes.
meditation room.
Uh,
That's
right.
exactly it.
She's got those like orange pillows, meditation pillows that are ready for Saru and the president to like, have a little close intimate chat. So I really love all the oranges. The oranges I remember seeing that since Sarek's house too. So they really love you know geometric shapes and oranges, so lots of shades of browns and oranges, and it's comfortable. I mean, it's a good contrast for all of that, kind of not all of the suppressed emotions that, but it sort of shows what's happening, what's bubbling underneath.
Yeah, because they've got a lot of depth to them. 'Cause Vulcans do. Anyway, that was Discovery Design.
And we want to give a shout out to all of our podcast subscribers. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for following us on Apple, Google, and Spotify. So please ask others to like and subscribe for all of our podcasts.
And as we head into our musical break, we bring to you Trek Table question number 2. Tilly. Tilly is having a challenging teaching experience, but turns it around. I'm wondering if any of you here at the Trek Table or in the audience might have some similar stories.
Mira que regresa el maldito. Viene con las manos llenitas de piedra que no quiere arrojar.
Welcome back with Trek Table question number 2. Tilly, Tilly and the cadets is having a challenging teaching experience and turns it around. Do we have any similar personal stories that might reflect or echo Tilly's experience? DeLa, you are an amazing educator. I've seen you do an educator of children and adults out in the world. Do you have a story you want to share with us?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm thinking of Zoom rooms that you and I, Claudia, have helped to run as we try to get groups of people, strangers we've never met, talking to each other about what's happening on their team, in their group, at their school. But I will just say one of my highlights of the learning is I created a new Zoom icebreaker that's about breaking out of the box, and I've gotten adults to do it successfully, which I feel like is the most difficult team. So yeah, I feel for Tilly. I felt for her.
Woo!
The jokes that didn't land, all that stuff. I was really
Oh,
confused. So yeah,
yes. Oh my
I
gosh.
was
I
there.
was feeling that so hard. Like the cringy moment of like cuz I tend to be a bubbly as you have experienced on this show. I tend to be enthusiastically into what I'm enthusiastically into, and I don't like to I was not cool in high school because I was into stuff. I couldn't pretend to be like I'm not into stuff cuz I'm cool. I'm that teacher too. I'm just like we're doing stuff in the classroom. And when you've got like a cold audience, it's so cringe. And just like the children are judging you, like, oh, miss, oh. So I'll share the story of I was doing a class in New York, got off the subway, got into the classroom, literally not enough desks for the students. Students were sharing desks. And I was like, oh no. Because it was like one of those programs where like they cut all of the good educational programs out of the school. And then they're like, hey, let's find some poets that we can underpay to supplement this. So like they ship us, we're going to all the different schools. The classroom is like like they seemed like they were ready to like start a riot. Like it was just like that energy of like they were angry for good reasons. They could I brought in all these exercises. They couldn't do my exercises because they literally didn't have like the tools, the books, and the pencils. So I did a
Mm.
freestyle class. We did a class that was about freestyling, about repeating language and then listening to it and repeating it back and building on it. And it was amazing and actually one of the highlights of my teaching experience. Now that I think about it, yeah. Wow. Maya, you're also an amazing educator. You're out there in the world. This is one of the things you are doing. Maya, what do you have a story that reflects Tilly's experience?
I mean, yes. I came from educational spaces where even in academic space I wasn't graded or I had narrative evaluations or we or especially my undergrad, they were all about icebreakers. So I've been in spaces where they're like, no, we're not doing that. But it's hard because in the academic space, I feel like, especially when you're on a short, like 10-week system, you're just really like go, go, go. Um, and and then I love the juxtaposition of when I am doing workshops where people are happy to be there. They've decided to be there. They're working on their creative work, and so they're usually down to do whatever I ask them to, which is super fun. But yeah, I often have this experience where I go in really excited and they're grumpy, and I've also been told, don't crack a smile at the beginning so they'll respect you, especially as a youngish looking, woman of color. I don't look like
Hmm.
often what people expect. I mean, Latinas are like point, I don't know, 2% of academic, professors and lecturers. So it's just
Mm.
it's really rare to see someone like me at the head of the classroom. So I'm often
Mm.
sometimes trying to be a little bit harder than I actually am in real life. But I love to just crack jokes, and be able to get into that space. And I honestly, the I'm in the finals week right now, and we've just had some final presentations, and students have just really been really appreciative and happy that I have been able to create a space where they feel seen and can connect to other humans, and when we're so isolated. So I feel like I'm doing
Mm.
something right,
Mm.
and the main thing I've been doing right is throwing all the rules out of the window and just being real. So
Well,
you know,
that's what Tilly had to do. They crashed that. There are no
Mhm.
rules once you crash on an ice planet. Maya Mama, have you had a crashing on an ice planet type of experience, and how'd you turn it around?
Well, I used to work as a vocational coach and job developer, and I've worked at elementary schools and things like that. But I think that, and also I'm a parent, and I say that every training and every teaching is going to be a bit of a challenge because everybody thinks differently, and you just got to learn. You have to learn how to listen to them. So everything is a
Mhm.
challenge. I don't know if I have the patience or as much grace as, say, Tilly has. But like, I feel like I would have lost my temper a lot sooner than she did.
It's real. Marie, how about you? Do you have any experiences that were similar to Tilly's?
Yeah,
I see you
well, I
nodding.
mean,
I see you
I'm like,
nodding.
yes. Well, I'll just say, like, without going into specifics, like, I am a first time manager with like managing full time employees. In my position, and so this is like, yes, like all of these challenges and struggles and having to face them are so real. Of like, especially with an intergenerational like kind of employment situation. So trying to, I think for me, it's coming at it of like, I care, and we have a job to do. And so, like, how can we do this? Where can we meet each other? Trying to meet them where they are is one way, and sometimes that doesn't work for me, and sometimes like, well, I need you to meet me here. And so we like compromise where we're meeting each other. And I think communication has been a really wonderful tool for me, and also having like a mentor as well has been a way that I've gotten help. So yeah.
Oh my gosh, you would make such a good Starfleet Academy teacher. You would be amazing at it. I'm just saying, like,
Yes.
oh, if this
Yeah.
entire whatever it is that you do for a living doesn't work out, you should try that. I'm just saying. Audience, you're amazing. I'm loving all of your responses. My kids learn better than the adults I've had to deal with. Come on, that's real. That's real. Thank you all so much for exploring Trek Table question number 2.
We also want to thank you all for listening and watching. We so appreciate you. And if you can, take a moment to head to trektable.com to get a first look at the Trek Table questions, inside scoops, and more when you sign up for our mailing list at www.trektable.com.
And now is that time in the Star Trek episode where we are going to on Trek Table where we dance. Get your dance on, everybody. It's time to dance. Dance break. Move it. Move it.
A shift, a move, a surge, we feel and manifest. Slide from uncertainty and launch into intent. Interminable imaginaries guided by ancestor strength. Abide by no one's governance. We below into the left more. We see more. Whose life is this for?
All right, and welcome back to the thematic section of the Trek Table. Thanks so much for that dance break and the Imaginaries by the band Quetzal. Here at Thematics, we like to weave together some of the themes and topics that we've been talking about all this episode. We've talked about it in recap. We've had shenanigans. We just did design. We've got some great Trek Table questions. And so we just kind of want to explore these three big themes of this episode. We're looking at themes, insights, and experiences and feedback reflection from our hosts this week. I'm going to start with topic 1. We want to explore this idea of self, right? We really saw how this episode is a continuing journey of Book discovering himself, him having to grieve for his planet, for his people, and just wanting to really honor like the resonance that I felt in terms of watching Book talk about with Culber, how there is a specific tree, there are specific, it is the sands of a specific place, it is the water of this specific place, and so we're seeing echoes of indigenous and native peoples and what their connections are to the land. I think about during COVID times, all the indigenous communities and tribal communities that are having a hard time gathering to grieve because they cannot do ceremony with each other. So I just want to honor we're seeing that journey for Book. We're seeing this journey for Tilly and what's happening for her that we heard a little bit about in Shenanigans and also in these Trek Table questions. So I just want to hold space that there's a lot going on, and that everybody is also still adjusting. Most of the disco crew is still adjusting to being in the future. So lots of stuff here about journey of self. Claudia, can I ask you to go first? Your thoughts and impressions on this topic of self that we're seeing in this episode.
I was so moved by the entire book and Culber journey. You rarely get that kind of journey in television. Generally, TV shows will they'll skip that part, and they'll if they're really doing good, they'll indicate that there was some period of time off screen was spent doing the work of healing. And
Mm,
it's kind of amazing that this show has that point in it. It feels anti-patriarchal. It feels necessary for me as an audience member. So if I, the audience member, receive some traumatic story beats, it's kind of
mm,
nice to have them pace an episode that gives me adventure and fun and also allows me to heal with book. So I'm really that
mm,
actor is just doing bananas good work. He is so
mhm,
good, and he's really just taking us with him on this journey, and I'm there for it, and I'm hoping that there's more to
mhm,
it. It's nice to know that healing doesn't happen off screen, that it can take place
mm.
inside the story.
Yes, we love that healing does not happen off screen. Maya Mama, and then Maya, I'm gonna invite you to jump in here. Your thoughts on the journey of self in this episode, book, maybe also Tilly. Tilly's got some big journey going on this episode. Maya Mama, your thoughts?
Well, even the cadets and Adira,
Mm,
they all are trying to find the things that make them. Because sometimes a part of yourself is even how do I fit into this community and this new community of future Starfleet? Like, how do we fit in? It's important for them to know who they are and how they relate to
mhm,
others. And there's a lot of that I was really digging in this episode. Um, just a lot of like self discovery.
Yeah, absolutely. I saw those cadets, I resonated with teaching young folks and them having, been educated in different places and not really have linked up. So those moments when they're talking about, well, I've never been around non-humans, that super resonated for me. And that journey of, that was kind of quick, but then also, yeah, I mean, Tilly, like this shift of what she used to be before, this kind of, hyper wanting to be the perfect cadet, wanting to be wanting to get to the captain's chair, and that
mhm,
shift. I love that she's taken a step back. She's made an appointment with Culber, and Culber really also stepping out, like really jumping into this role of counselor, and really putting his own unique spin on it, and just asking
mhm,
questions and trying different things and really listening hard. And then just the tiny bit of that we get to see of Gray also
mhm,
in his new body, on a new journey with a new haircut and a new outfit,
mhm,
just trying some new things.
mhm, mhm. Looking fierce, and I'll just say, anybody else feel like Gray is the sexy new Neelix? I don't know, that hair just felt a little Neelix to me. That's a little Voyager drop there, so I'm curious. But yes, I do think Gray looked fabulous. In my rewatch today, I was like, "Ooh, little Neelix there." So yes, I want to say thanks to Maya and my mama. That's a really great bridge for the second topic of the theme today. Is just think about service, right? Like how Tilly is approaching her role to service in Starfleet, how Culber is approaching his role now, having this dual role of both medical officer and ship's counselor, right? And I want to just open it up here for us to talk about service, and I want to bring Marie-Reine into the conversation, because it's been a minute since we've been able to really talk with you, Marie, about Tilly's journey, and like she was certainly somebody that we were thinking about talking about in early Trek Table episodes as we discovered this show. Your thoughts on Tilly's journey in this EDI with Orions and Tellurites? What are you seeing in this episode?
Well, yeah, I think for I think that Tilly did, the job that needed to be done, and I don't know if she had any kind of background on any of the cadets because it seemed like someone did, right? That there was, and when the Emerald Chain was brought up, and like just giving space for everyone to have a chance to say something and say like what their background is and where they're coming from, because I feel like we won't know where people are coming from unless they say,
Mhm,
and so that just that one gesture allowed allowed for people to be able to find that they had more in common, whereas previously they saw each other as adversaries.
Mm.
Totes. And just what that gives us in terms of thinking about this place where Starfleet is rebuilding. I rewatched actually the very first season 1 episode 1, and I just noticed that moment with Saru and Burnham on the bridge, and their ability to, and just the growth of where they have been and what service means in this episode, right? Burnham and Saru are called into service by the Federation and Navarre. Maya Mama, can I invite you to jump in here? Thoughts about this topic and service?
Well, I just really keep thinking about how Tilly is really is doing the opposite, the mirror of what Captain Killy is,
Mm.
rather than
Woo!
striking people down and ruling them. She's nurturing, she's growing, she's creating
Mhm.
these great people. Her and I just think that that's really interesting, just how far apart she's going away. She has the ability to command, we can see that, but that's not how she wants to command, and I just think it's really great how she's discovering
Mhm.
her opposite side.
Mhm. And
Mm.
she calls herself out in that previous episode where she gets really frustrated with the deer. She's like, "Oh, I'm stammeting, right? Like I'm doing leadership model, communication model that I don't want to replicate." And I want to honor that this connection of service also connects to the third topic, which is leadership. Yeah, we're thinking about this connection between the Federation and Navarre. I'd love us to also reflect on, like, yeah, Burnham, this bridge called my Burnham, and just how Burnham again is not responsibility hoarding, but genetically happens to be the bridge in this moment that can link all the peoples. So I'm going to invite Claudia, Maia to jump in here next. Thoughts about service also, but thoughts about leadership. Where are you at?
Well, it's interesting because I used to be like all about the servant leader model, and I was like servant leader model. But in a white supremacist community and in a country that has just a lot of white domination and those kind of supremacy culture shapes, service can sometimes get twisted. So it's nice to see that in the future you can lead in a model that doesn't mean that you are being an overlord, but also you can lead in a way where folks aren't going to steal your power and make you a servant. I like the idea of being able to be in service without being made into a servant. And I personally think being a Starfleet, especially like right now where Starfleet is in its history, being a teacher is a more powerful position. If you're trying to change culture and shift the world, I think that you have the opportunity to do something more powerful teaching a class than just running one ship.
Hmm.
Mhm. Maya,
That's so
other thoughts
sweet.
you
I'm
want to
just,
know?
yeah, I was just, I was like, thank you, because it's such a thankless job. Um, because I'm really pushing like critical thinking. I mean, in this era of people just, saying that we're teaching all kinds of wild things, I'm like, oh right, like I can actually get my students to just think how I want them to think. No, I'm pushing them, right, to think for themselves. But and yeah, and so I appreciate that about Tilly. I appreciate that about also Culber, the questions that he's asking, the examples. Also Burnham, man, like she tried so hard not to speak. When she was told not to speak, that was so much fun watching that eye acting, that face acting, where she's like, right? But then she's got to say something, and I think that is sometimes our leadership also is knowing when to be quiet, knowing when to listen, and also when to jump in, and whether or not it goes perfectly, she's got something to say. And yeah, she's our hero in this show, right? So of course she's always going to have something to say, and sometimes it's like, oh my gosh, Burnham, of course she's so brilliant. But yeah, I think it was fun to see her being pushed kind of into that moment. And then she's great at solving problems. So when she's going to step back and when she's going to step forward, and it's fun to see that.
Yeah, most definitely. And I mean, there's so many moments in this show we get to see Burnham. I mean, there's so many. This is such a great example of women in leadership, and I really appreciate this conversation that we're having. I never take for granted the fact that we're getting President Tarina, we're getting President Rillick, we're getting Captain Burnham, we're getting Sister Gabrielle, we're getting women leaders. We're also getting examples of non-toxic masculinity with the male identified characters. We're getting gender queer, gender non-conforming trans folks in the story. I guess the last thing I just want to say is just really appreciating again and holding up that part of what I love about this episode, I think this is probably one of the best episodes of the whole series. That's something that I dropped in the newsletter the other day. And I do really think about how this is such a really powerful example of so many different things that Star Trek Discovery is trying to show us. And I love that Tilly is going to be at Starfleet Academy. And that means that the next blueprint for cadets and for training and for leadership has the possibility to have it come from women of color leadership models, non-toxic masculinity leadership, non-servant leadership models, right? As we're talking
Yes.
about on this show. So I know that we could go on and like table, I really want us to chunk in, but I want to honor where we are on our time and just say that we're going to keep chunking through this season as we see kind of what's happening. Um, um, just like one last pass. Anybody else have one last burning thing you want to say before I transition us out? Maya Mama, I see you.
I do want to say that I really appreciate the fact that we are made to think that the two presidents are like any other two presidents who don't talk to each other and all fighty and stuff. And I just love the fact that they actually did communicate. They communicated before this thing even happened. They made a plan to bring Saru and Captain Burnham to like fix to meddle essentially. And I really appreciated that they actually did have everything in hand, and I just thought that was really cool.
Get it. And we'll get to see as the season goes on whether women in leadership, we still get pump fake politics, do we still get backstab, like what are all the things we're still going to see? A lot of questions. And yes, to say there's a lot more political theater to come in the future, and we're super excited about that. And that was Thematix for Trek Table episode number 36.
And as we head into our final Trek Table question number 3, I'd like you all to think hard about this. David Cronenberg is famous for being in other things other than Star Trek. Did you know this? I'm just curious, are there any other Star Trek actors that you've enjoyed in other projects?
Mira que regresa el maldito. Viene con las manos llenitas de piedra que no quiere arrojar.
Welcome back with question number 3 on the Trek Table. David Cronenberg is actually famous for being in things other than Star Trek. Turns out he's done other things than Star Trek. I'm just curious, what other Star Trek actors have you enjoyed in other projects? And for our audience members who are not in on the joke, David Cronenberg is a famous director. He directed The Fly with Jeff Goldblum. That one, there's been several Flies, but he did that one. He did Scanners. He did all kinds of movies that I really enjoyed in the 1980s and 90s. Y'all, what are some other actors you've enjoyed? Let me start with you, Maya Mama.
I would have to say the eternal Jeffrey Combs, who's played a bunch of different roles on Star Trek, but personally, I really love him as the Question on the cartoon Justice League and Justice League Unlimited, playing the Question. It just seems appropriate for him as an actor, so I really like him in that.
You're amazing, because I was like, wait a second, you know that Jeffrey Combs was in a movie directed by David Cronenberg. What?
Yeah.
Another thing. Go ahead and share it. Come on, share it.
Well,
share it,
I was also gonna say, like almost the entire series, people of Gargoyles is also at Star Trek.
Oh my God! It's just true. Come on, gargoyles. Don't you remember the cartoon
Jujutsu knows
Gargoyle?
about that
Get in.
gargoyles, right?
Get on the gargoyles. I am such a gigantic fan. If we would like to do a spin-off show where we just talk about gargoyles, we can do that because that's almost Star Trek. You're right. It was like all the TNG cast voicing it. That's amazing. Okay, well done, Maya Mama. That is so much fun. Marie. What's an actor you've enjoyed in other projects?
Well, I feel like this is where my Star Trek casual really like comes at the forefront of who I am, and I'm just like Whoopi Goldberg and Sister Act and Ghost and all the Whoopi Goldberg stuff, like, because yeah, like, well,
Of
because
course.
I'll say too that my I grew up Catholic, and the church that I attended when I was growing up in San Francisco is the Sister Act Church, and so I have a special connection
Oh, that's so
to
cool.
Whoopi Goldberg, and I got to see her. I was like really young, and TNG was playing, was on, and I had a chance to say something to her. I was like, what do I say? And then I was like, I love you at Star Trek. And then that was what I got to say to Whoopi Goldberg.
Can I
Oh
just
my
say little
gosh,
known
that's so
fact
cool.
about Sister Act, about that Sister Act? Martha Gonzalez, who's the lead singer of the band Quetzal that we use the music of. Martha was a teenage actor in the youth choir with Lauryn Hill and Dee Dee Magno of Steven Universe and Mickey
No.
Mouse Club. So just to say, Martha Gonzalez, what is up? That's like Aki Soriano
Yes.
in True Beverly Hills, like community rooted people when they were young, when they were actors. So
Oh
sorry
my
to
Oh,
gosh.
jump
y'all,
in there.
So good.
I had no idea that this dumb question was going to spark such a delightful conversation. But I'm realizing every time I think about another project that I loved an actor in, I have like the entire universe of that project explodes in my head. You know that Michelle Yeoh, anything that Michelle Yeoh is in, she's like recently just been in a bunch of stuff where she's super, like her character is just like, I'm cool and I kick butt, like I'm awesome, I'm lifetime gold. You want to be me, and I kick butt. I'm a librarian that kicks butt. I love everything she makes and does, and she's magical and amazing. Maya, I'm wondering what's an actor, just at random, an actor that you've never mentioned before or are a fan of. Is there just a random Star Trek Discovery actor that you have enjoyed?
Why you playing, Claudia? Well, you know, one actor I've never mentioned before, Wilson Cruz in My So-Called Life. I mean, when I saw he was going to be in this show, I was like, yeah, I'll watch it. I'll watch it. We'll see. But you know, he's been in a lot of other shows as well. I mean, I think he's been a guest on like Grey's Anatomy and all kinds of other stuff. But yeah, you know, I love how seeing him. Has he done anything? Rent. What else? Yeah, wasn't he Angel in Rent?
Yes, he was.
Yeah.
Yes, he was.
So, but I was gonna also say, Anson Mount, you know, was the love interest, I believe, in the Britney Spears movie, The Crossroads. So, you know, I know some deep cuts. What you talking about? What you talking
It's
about?
true. It is a fact.
All right.
So
I
the
think
book,
that y'all, there wasn't a winner for this section, but I think that Maya won it. Our audience mentioned Aniqua in Walking Dead. Yes. Aniqua was in
Yes.
Walking Dead. Also, Paul Meany in The Englishman, who went up a hill but came down a mountain. Y'all remember that movie? That's a delightful movie. He's a delightful actor. And also Wilson Cruz in Everything from the audience member, and also Doug Jones. Also Doug Jones and everything. Yes to that. Because Doug Jones is like invisible oftentimes. You don't even know it's Doug Jones. You're just like, who is that amazing alien? Who is that amazing character? Y'all, this was such a fun conversation, and I had no idea that there were so many in real life Star Trek connections in this group with this Sister Act connection. Come on with it. And that was Star Trek question. Those were all of our Star Trek questions for this Trek Table episode of number 36.
We strive here at the Trek Table to hold space for Black, Indigenous, Brown, women of color, period. We also want to amplify resources and highlight the work of women of color content creators, community builders, and shapers. We have 3 today. Maya Mama, can I ask you to share our first signal boost for today?
Absolutely. Trek Table is excited to share our extended holiday guide, and we want to promote Tracy Kato Kiriyama. They have their newest poetry collection is out, Navigating Without Instruments. Find out more at their website, www.tracikemi.com, or on Instagram at TRACIAKEMI1.
Yes, we uplift Caden Phoenix, Chicana writer and director from Boyle Heights. Check out her new series, A la Brava, a superhero universe where Latinas of different upbringings fight against female injustices. Each book tells their origin story and social cause. Check out A la Brava and the team of Latina artists behind the comic book series at latinasuperheroes.com.
And Trek Table wants to amplify our friends over at the Earth Lodge in what is known as Long Beach, California. The Earth Lodge is home to one of the most potent urban ritual and ceremony healing and trauma transformation um, earth womb pits in what is known as Los Angeles County. The Earth Lodge Center for Transformation is a spiritual sanctuary for people who, to transform their trauma into healing and justice. They serve queer, LGBT, POC, women, children, and men who support the rise of the feminine. Learn more about them at linktree/Earthlodge.
Thank you all. And if you have a woman of color content creator, world shaper, or change maker that you would like us to amplify, please reach out to us at Trek Table on Instagram or at Trek_Table on Twitter. And that was the signal boost for Trek Table episode number 36.
Continue this conversation with us by joining our Trek Table community on Discord. Find the link in the episode notes or in the chat.
And we want to say thank you all so much for joining us today for this 36th episode of the Trek Table. As is the case every week, we're coming to our final thoughts on this episode. It's been such a great time to have the 5 of us together for this Trek Table. And I want us to go ahead and share our final thoughts for this Star Trek Discovery Season 4, Episode 4, All Is Possible. Maya Mama, can I ask you to go first?
Yeah, I really think that there's like a lesson in this episode that if you accept the impermanence of the universe and accept that change is going to be something, then all is possible.
Okay, thank you so much, Maya Mama. Awesome. Maya, can I ask you to go next? Your final thoughts on this Season 4, Episode 4, All Is Possible episode.
I think it was a super shock to see Tilly go. I was like, "What? She's not going." And I think she'll be back for sure. But I'm excited to see the space that has been kind of made for Adira, the handing off of the snow globe. You know, everything is possible. I think there are times when you know, I want to believe that and I want to see that and I want to move that way in the world. And so I'm excited to kind of see the world through the fresh new eyes of Adira, and excited to see the journey of Adira, and now that they've separated from Gray, and what that space that, you know, Tilly leaving for whatever amount of time. I know she's going to be back. So how that will allow for that growth and what we'll see with that. And I'm sure there'll be some more shenanigans specifically having to do with that.
Right? She said, see you at Fed HQ. So thank you so much, Maya, for those final thoughts for this episode of Star Trek Discovery. Claudia, I'm going to come to you. Your final thoughts on this episode?
Well, you know, I'm always looking at this show through a couple of different lenses. So I'm watching it as if Star Trek is a real thing. And also I'm looking at it as if I'm a producer of Star Trek and helping them make the choices that they're going to produce. And I was I've been clocking the storyline, and all of my I've watched a lot of TV show instincts were kicking in, and they were telling me, "Oh, something's going on with this actress," but it wasn't. Oh, there's bad vibes behind the scenes. Oftentimes, if there's bad vibes behind the scenes, a character just like gets killed mysteriously by the paw rape. But other times, you will have these moments where they not only they get transitioned to a place where they can go potentially have a baby. That's my guess. I saw some pillow blocking where I was like, that's really like nobody uses pillows like that when they're hanging out in Star Trek. I feel like that's a strategically placed pillow, and that tells me that they all get along and they love the character. And the reason that Tilly is going to have some off-screen adventures is because the actress is going to have some off-screen adventures, and it's totally coming back, and we're going to get more Tilly. I'm excited for the in real life thing that happened that potentially is making something more exciting happen on the show. My final thoughts.
Mm.
Thank you so much. All right. I can go next. I will say that I recognize the pillow action as a person with a belly, and I recognize that game, so I was appreciating. And Mary Wiseman, I just want to say, like, love how you are in these uniforms. Thank you for embodying this character. My final thought is two things. One, just to say, one of my favorite Star Trek actors who's in other things is Oded Fair, who plays Admiral Vance. Since the Mummy. You had me at the Mummy. Okay. So that's number one. Number two, it was gonna be a shenanigan this week, but it doesn't feel like a shenanigan. I'm really moved by the fact that Navarre and the Federation are united. This is Spock's unification dream come true. This is Burnham, his sister, at this ceremony receiving these flags for something that has taken over 1,000 years to occur. And I just honor that the way in which these showrunners and these writers and the teams have created everything is so beautiful. And I know I said two, but the last thing I have to say is Jeff Russo, who creates the music on this show, stellar episode. I so enjoyed the mystery sounds that we got to hear, the sonic scaping that was happening in those treaty rooms, and just the mystery that we got with Saru and Burnham and them trying to unfold all this politics. So thank you again to the disco teams. Really, really amazing episode. And I think it is one of the best of the series. I'm going to call it. And eventually we'll start to make all our big best lists. But I love this episode so much. And that is my final thought. Marie-Reine, you've been on with us today. We're so happy you joined us for this episode. Your final thought on Star Trek Discovery Season 4, Episode 4.
Yeah, and I think this actually applies to the three main storylines that we follow on this episode, which is listening is how we move forward. With bit like between the cadets, between just all of the political theater between Navarre and the Federation, and then also with Book and Culber and that journey. So how I just love that is a thing that I got out of this episode, is stressing the importance of listening, um and how we can all grow from there.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And audience, friends in the chat, we're open to your final thoughts for this episode. What are you thinking? What are you feeling? If you're catching this on the podcast, don't feel bad. Hashtag us. Let us know. We really want to know what your thoughts are. And those were our final thoughts for Star Trek Discovery Season 4, Episode 4, All Is Possible.
We hope you join us on Sunday, December 19th, when we talk about Season 4, Episode 5 of Star Trek Discovery, The Examples, which premieres on Thursday, December 17th on Paramount Plus.
Thank you all for joining us at Trek Table. Get first look at the Trek Table questions, inside scoops, and more when you sign up for our mailing list at trektable.com.
Find Trek Table Podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and wherever you get your podcasts.
Like and subscribe to this YouTube channel so you can get more of this Trek Table into your algorithms.
Yes, yes. And let's continue this conversation on Discord. I was just opening up my Discord for the Trek Table community on Discord. Find our link here in the episode notes or in the chat, or search for Trek Table on Discord.
And like and subscribe to us on Instagram at Trek Table and on Twitter at Trek_table. Hashtag BIWOC Trek.
Yes, and finally, I would like to say thank you so much to our Trek table assembled today here. Thanks so much for holding down this ritual, for helping us watch these brand new episodes of this show that we love. We want to say a special thank you to not only Marta Gonzalez, but all of our friends over at the band Quetzal. Thank you so much for this amazing music. And of course, I want to say and name all of the contributions of our co-hosts today. Thank you, Claudia Alick, Maia Chinchilla, Maia Mills-Lowe, and Marie-Reine Velez. Thank you so much for sharing your insights and your thoughts with us today. As we started today's show, we were thinking about holding Trek space for all that tender man of color goodness between Space Poppy Hugh and Cleveland Booker. Oh, and of course, Tilly, Adira, Saru, and Burnham. We were holding space for this episode. We're also holding space for discovering that the journey can be more important than the destination. We're holding Trek space for cranky smart youngins who don't want to do icebreakers until they crash into the ice. And for people who are accepting change as a gift. And finally, we're holding Trek space for subtle and not subtle ways to ask for help because politics. Trek Table is produced by executive producers Alison De La Cruz and Luzviminda Jadiwala, production coordinator Brendan Chang, stream manager Ariana Michelle, social media manager and chat moderator Isil Jimena Martinez.
Deep, deep gratitude and thanks to Outside In Theater, with extra thanks to Paul, Matt, Jessica, Danny, and Tamlin.
Thanks to Dr. Deborah Carter, Doc Zulu, and our partners at Visual Communications. Thank you so much, Francis.
We would also like to thank our content partners at Calling Up Justice.
Trek Table is a service mark of DeLa Projects, LLC.
Yes, and we want to say thanks to everybody for joining us today at the Trek Table. We're about to close this ritual. I'm going to invite people to plant your feet flat on the floor. And let's go ahead and take one more closing breath. Take a breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. Thank you so much. We hope that you're going to join us next Sunday, December 19th, as we dive into the new Star Trek Discovery episode, The Examples, Season 4, Episode 5. It comes out on Thursday, the 17th, and we will talk to you on Sunday, the 19th. We're super excited about that. 4 o'clock Pacific Daylight Time here on the Outside In Theater YouTube channel. Don't worry, we're going to be holding Trek space for you until then. Thanks so much, everybody. Have a great week.